The acrid scent of burning fabric hit Emily Carter before she saw the smoke. She froze for a split second on her front porch, bags of groceries slipping from her fingers and spilling across the wooden boards. Her stomach twisted as her eyes followed the trail of black smoke curling into the sky. And then she saw it. At the edge of her driveway, near the curb, her son's blue backpack lay in flames, the fire crackling hungrily as it devoured the straps and charred the colorful patches Liam had chosen so carefully. For a moment, Emily couldn't move. Her mind struggled to process what she was seeing. Then instinct roared to life. "No, not again," she screamed, bolting down the steps. Her shoes pounded against the concrete as her heart raced in her chest. She grabbed the garden hose, fumbling with the nozzle until a spray of cold water shot out. Emily aimed it at the fire, her hands shaking as the flames hissed and spat under the torrent. The burning smell grew stronger as the water turned the embers into steam. Finally, only a smoldering, melted heap remained. Emily stood there, breathing hard, staring at the ruin of her son's belongings. The adaptive pencil grips were gone, warped into unrecognizable lumps. The homework folder, his first-grade teacher's encouragement stickers still visible just days ago, was now a soggy blackened mess. "Mommy?" The small, trembling voice behind her made Emily's chest tighten. She turned to see her son Liam in the doorway, clutching the frame for balance as his little wheelchair sat just behind him. His dark eyes were wide with confusion and fear. Was that my bag?" he asked softly, his voice almost a whisper. Emily swallowed hard and forced a smile she didn't feel. "It's okay, baby. Mommy's got this." She walked over quickly and crouched beside him, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. "Go inside and watch your cartoons, all right? I'll clean this up." Liam hesitated, his gaze flickering to the driveway, and then nodded. As she watched him roll away, her hands curled into fists. She had tried to be patient with the HOA's endless complaints and warnings. The notes about her son's wheelchair ramp being an eyesore, the letters threatening fines for deliveries of medical supplies, even the glares from neighbors when Liam's service dog barked too loudly. But this was different. They had burned her disabled son's school bag. Emily stood slowly, jaw tight, eyes burning, not with tears this time, but with cold fury. "They don't get to do this," she whispered under her breath. "Not to my son." This time, she wouldn't let them win. 2 nights later, Emily Carter sat in her car outside the HOA clubhouse, gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. The fluorescent lights from inside flickered against the windshield, casting harsh shadows across her face. She could see them through the glass: Gregory Mills, the smug HOA president, and his little group of loyalists seated at their polished oak table like they were rulers of a tiny kingdom. Emily took a deep breath, willing her racing heart to slow. For Liam, she reminded herself. This is for Liam. Pushing open the car door, she stepped out, holding the charred remains of her son's backpack in a clear plastic bag. The air was heavy with summer heat and tension as she walked across the parking lot. The scent of burned fabric clung to her clothes, no matter how many times she'd washed them since the fire. As she entered the room, all conversation stopped. 5 pairs of eyes turned to her, some curious, some cold. Gregory leaned back in his chair with a self-satisfied grin. "Ah, Mrs. Carter," he said, his voice dripping with mock politeness. "What a surprise. Here to discuss your latest violation?" Emily walked straight to the table, her boots clicking sharply against the tile floor. Without a word, she dropped the bagged remains of Liam's backpack onto the table. The charred plastic and melted zipper clattered against the wood, sending an audible ripple through the room. "This," Emily said, her voice low but steady, "was my son's school bag. Someone burned it in my driveway." A murmur went through the board members. A younger woman shifted uneasily in her seat, while an older man cleared his throat as if to speak. But Gregory's smirk never faltered. "Do you have proof," he asked coolly, "that anyone from this board was involved?" Emily's hands trembled, but not from fear. "Don't play dumb. For months, you've harassed my family. complaints about wheelchair ramps, threats over medical supply deliveries, letters about violating community aesthetics. And now this. She pointed at the melted bag. You've crossed a line. Gregory steepled his fingers. Mrs. Carter, we enforce standards. If your property doesn't meet our guidelines, that's on you. Emily's eyes hardened. No, this isn't about standards. This is about you targeting my disabled son, and I won't stand for it. The younger board member spoke up hesitantly. Maybe we should at least investigate silence. Gregory barked, his voice rising. This meeting is over unless you have actual evidence, Mrs. Carter. Emily leaned forward, her glare sharp enough to cut steel. Fine. If you won't investigate, I will. And when I find the truth, I'll make sure everyone knows who's really running this neighborhood. The next few days turned Emily's life into a quiet war. While Liam went to school with a borrowed bag and borrowed smiles, Emily scoured her neighborhood for answers. She knocked on doors, spoke softly to neighbors, and asked questions that made people shift uncomfortably on their porches. Most of them avoided her eyes, too afraid to say anything. Gregory's hold over the HOA wasn't just about rules, it was fear. Fear of fines, fear of retaliation, fear of becoming the next target. But not everyone was silent. Emily found her breakthrough with Mrs. Sanchez, the elderly widow who lived across the street. When Emily knocked on her door, the woman hesitated, peeking out through the chain lock. You shouldn't be here, Emily, she whispered. Gregory, he doesn't like people siding against him. Emily's voice trembled, but not from weakness. Please, he burned my son's school bag. He's hurting us. I just need the truth. Mrs. Sanchez sighed and disappeared into her home for a moment. When she returned, she handed Emily a small USB drive. My doorbell camera, it caught something that night. I didn't want to get involved, but she pressed the drive into Emily's hand. This isn't right. At home, Emily plugged the drive into her laptop. The footage was grainy but clear enough. At 10:43 p.m., a figure crept into her driveway. Gregory Mills. He looked around, tossed a bag onto the pavement, and struck a match. The flames flared, illuminating his face in a twisted mask of satisfaction. Emily stared at the screen, her hands shaking. Her chest felt heavy, but not with despair this time. This was fire, her fire now. Gregory wasn't untouchable anymore. She glanced at a photo of Liam on the table, his gap-toothed smile radiant. I promised you, sweetheart, she whispered. Mommy's going to make this right. The next HOA meeting was different. Word had spread that Emily Carter had something explosive to show, and the room was packed. Residents who rarely attended now lined the walls, whispering nervously as Emily walked in with her laptop and a steel determination in her eyes. Gregory looked up from his seat, his smirk faltering slightly as he saw her. Mrs. Carter, he began, voice tight, I hope you're not here to spread false accusations. Save it, Emily said sharply, plugging her laptop into the projector. You wanted evidence? Here it is. The video played. Silence gripped the room as Gregory's face appeared on screen, illuminated by the fire he had lit. Someone gasped. Another whispered, Oh my God. Gregory jumped to his feet, his voice cracking. This is doctored. She's trying to smear me. Liar, shouted Mrs. Sanchez from the back of the room. All eyes turned as she stood shakily. That's my footage. I gave it to her. I saw you, Gregory. The murmurs became shouts. He endangered a child, one neighbor yelled. He's a disgrace. Emily folded her arms, her voice calm but deadly. This man burned my disabled son's belongings. He's been harassing us for months, and you've all been too scared to stop him. Not anymore. Before Gregory could respond, two uniformed police officers stepped forward from the doorway. Emily had called them earlier, knowing this confrontation would need witnesses. Gregory Mills, one officer said firmly, You're under arrest for arson and harassment. As the cuffs clicked shut, Gregory's face went pale. The room erupted in applause, not loud or joyful, but the kind of cathartic release that comes from watching a tyrant fall. Weeks later, Emily sat on her porch in the cool evening air, sipping tea as Liam played nearby with his service dog. The neighborhood felt different now. The HOA board had resigned in disgrace, and residents had voted in new leadership, people who valued kindness over control. Neighbors who had once avoided her now waved and stopped to chat. Mrs. Sanchez had baked Liam cookies. A group of parents had pitched in to replace his school supplies, including a new backpack with superheroes across it. "Mommy," Liam said softly, rolling up to her wheelchair's edge, "you're like Wonder Woman." Emily laughed, though her eyes misted. "No, sweetheart, you're my superhero. I just fight the bad guys for you." For the first time since moving into the neighborhood, Emily felt at peace. The fight was over, and everyone knew now. If you tried to hurt her son, you'd have to face his mother's fire.